Hello everyone, Swastiastu. So welcome back with me. My name is Kadek Intan Lestari. My student ID number is 211117128 and I'm from class A1 Denpasar in third semester. So today in this video, I would like to explain the matter about active and passive voice. In this material, I would like to explain about definition, patterns, and examples of active and passive voice. So let's get started. So I would like to start with the table of contents here. The first one is definition. In definition, I would like to explain about what is active and passive voice. And then the second one is patterns and examples. In the patterns and examples, I would like to explain about, you can read and see on the slide. Okay, some tenses. Okay. The first one is active voice. The active voice is one of two voices of the verbs that we use in the writing and speech. A verb is said to be an active voice when the subject of sentences or clause is the one performing the action described by the verb. So, when do you use active voice? Generally speaking, the active voice is the preferred voice in a formal and academic writing. It is seen as more direct and often makes sentences easier to read or understand. So that being said, there are specific instances where the active voice is particularly useful. So, active voice is the term of a verb whose subject performs the action of the verb. For the example, John painted the vans. In this example, painted is in the active voice because the subject of painted, John, is performing the action, did the painting. So this is an example of active sentences with a verb in the active voice. So let's move to passive voice. Passive voice is opposite to active voice. Passive voice is a quality of a verb that describes when the subject of a sentence is acted upon by the verb. So, when to use passive voice? The passive voice is used when we want to emphasize the action or the verb and the object of the sentence rather than subject. This means that the subject is either less important than the action itself or that we don't know who or what the subject is. The passive voice is performed by using a form of the auxiliary verb or to be, like is, am, are, was, were, being, followed by the past participle of the main verb. So, the passive voice is acceptable under certain contains. We use passive voice for, the first one is to emphasize the receiver of the action instead of the door, and then to keep the focus on the same subject through several sentences, and then when we do know who performed the action, and when we do not wish to mention the door of the action. Remember the note? This use often reveals an unwillingness to take responsibility or place it on someone else. I have a patterns for passive voice here, and then the pattern is passive subject plus to be plus per participle. So, for the example, the award-winning chef prepares each meal with loving care. And the passive sentence is, each meal is prepared with loving care by the award-winning chef. In the above example of an active sentences, the simple subject is chef and prepares is the verb the chef prepares each meal with a loving care. In a passive sentence, meal is the simple subject and is prepared is the verb. Each meal is prepared by the award-winning chef. Although both sentences have the same basic components, their structure makes them different from each other. Active sentences are about what people or things do, while passive sentences are about what happens to people or things. So now we are going to move to present simple passive. So present simple passive is used to talk about some action that are performed in the present or repeatedly or habits, simple statement or fact or universal truth. And then for positive sentence here, I have the pattern for active voice is subject plus verb 1 with s or as plus object. And then for passive is subject plus to be is mr plus verb 3 plus object. And for the examples, I read a letter. The letter is written. You wash the car every week. The car is washed every week. We built our house. Our house is built. Okay? And for a negative sentence, I have a different patterns. So for active, the pattern is subject plus do or does not plus verb 1 plus object. And then for passive, subject plus be or to be is mr and not plus verb 3 plus object. And for the examples here, he doesn't watch TV in the evening. TV isn't watched in the evening. They don't make sandwich here. Sandwich are not made here. And for interrogative sentences, I have a different patterns. For active, the pattern is do or does plus subject plus verb 1 plus object plus interrogative mark. And then for passive voice, the pattern to be is mr plus subject plus verb 3 plus object plus interrogative mark. For the examples, do they eat the apples? Are the apples eaten? Do you bring my phone? Is my phone brought by you? Does she eat my food? Is my food eaten by her? So now we're gonna move to present continuous passive. Present continuous passive is used to talk about some ongoing action performed at the moment of speaking or around it. So the patterns for active sentences is subject plus to be plus verb ing plus object. And then for passive, object plus to be plus being plus verb 3 plus by plus subject. For the examples, she is not cutting the grass now. The grass is not being cut now. They are usually cleaning the floor when I come. The floor is usually being cleaned when I come. And then past simple passive. Past simple passive is normally used to talk about some completed actions in the past. In the passive voice, emphasis is put on the effect of an action rather than on the door. I have a patterns of past simple passive. The first one is in active sentence. We use subject plus verb 2 plus object. And then for the passive sentence, object plus to be plus verb 3 plus by plus subject. And for the examples of sentences, Tom repaired the car. The car was repaired by Tom. We cleaned our house yesterday. Our house is cleaned by us yesterday. Okay. And then future simple passive. Future simple passive is used to talk about an action that is going to happen in the future. There are the patterns here for the first one is for active voice. The pattern is subject plus will plus verb 1 plus object. And for the passive, object plus will plus to be plus verb 3 plus by plus subject. For the example, I will write a letter. A letter will be written by me. Tony will learn the lesson next week. The lesson will be learned by Tony next week. And then, next, present perfect. The present perfect is a tense that usually describes something about the past that has a connection with the present. We use the present perfect in the passive form for all the same reasons we use it in the active form. To talk about recent actions, experiences, and ongoing action or situations. For the patterns here, the first one is for the active pattern, subject plus have or has plus verb 3 plus object. And for the passive, object plus have or has plus been plus verb 3 plus by plus subject. And for the examples, she has sent a letter. A letter has been sent by her. He has listened to the music for an hour. The music has been listened by him for an hour. So, now past perfect. The past perfect, also called the pluperfect, is a verb tense used to talk about actions that were completed before some point in the past. The past perfect tense is for talking about something that happened before something else. For the patterns, the first one is for the active patterns, is subject plus had plus verb 3 plus object. And for the passive, the pattern is object plus had plus been plus verb 3 plus by plus subject. For the examples, the little girl had broken the window. The window had been broken by the little girl. Firefighters had put out the fire successfully. The firefighter had been put out successfully by the firefighters. So, the next is passive voice without be. So, when we write in the passive voice, we add some form of the helping verb, which is to be or be, like am, is, are, being, been, to an otherwise strong verb that really did not help. So, when is be or to be not used in a sentence? Actually, without we don't use be or to be for a sentence which contains the first one is for infinitive of verb 1, and then for verb plus s or es, and then past tense or verb 2, and the last is for intransitive past participle of or verb 3. So the examples for the active sentence is I watch a movie. For the passive, a movie is watched. And then the second example, for the active, you can view the final results on the internet. And passive, the final results can be viewed on the web. So now is passive of voice containing two objects. Okay. A verb can have two possible passive voice when it takes two objects, a direct object and indirect object. Normally, it is the direct object or the object that appears first in an active sentence, which become the subject of the passive sentence. We can, however, also use the direct object as the subject. The passive form of the verbs with two objects is used to change the focus between the direct object and the indirect object. When they are placed as the subject of the passive sentence, the most commonly used verbs with two objects are give, lend, send, show, etc. And for the patterns, for the passive voice is subject, which is direct object, plus passive verb, plus indirect object, plus by, plus agent. And then, or you can use subject, which is indirect object, plus passive verb, plus direct object, plus by, plus agent. And for the example, for active voice is Jack sent Jill a large bucket of white and red roses. For passive is Jill was sent a large bucket of white and red roses by Jack. And we can write another passive, another sentence. A large bucket of white and red rose was sent to Jill by Jack. And then another example for the active, the salesman showed him a new computer. For the passive, he was shown a new computer. And another sentence of passive is, a new computer was shown to him. And then passive voice of sentences containing prepositions. So where do prepositions in passive sentence go? So when we put an active sentences where a preposition follows after the verb, like break into, look after, listen to. Into passive, the preposition remains immediately after the verb. So I have examples here. In active sentence, someone broke into the pet shop, which changed to the passive sentence is the pet shop was broken into. And then another example, they look for the baby was looked for. And then someone shoots at the man is shouted at. They listen to the music is listened to. Okay. And then passive of verbs with object and object complement. So I think, yeah, this is the last material. Okay. After some verbs, the direct object can be followed by an object complement, which is a noun or adjective, which describes or classifies the object. When these clauses are made passive, these object complements become subject complements, like they come after the verb. So the patterns here is, for the active sentence is subject plus verb plus object complement. For the example, my father has just painted the gate green. Another example is he calls his dog Bobby. And I have a pattern for passive sentence is subject plus to be plus verb 3 plus subject complement. For the example, the gate has just been painted green by my father. And then his dog is called Bobby. All right, so that's all the material about active and passive voice. I also have some exercise here. You can scan QR code in the slide or type this link. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you can understand the material today about active and passive voice, and see you in the next video. Bye.